My girlfriend of 3 years aimed a mech's main cannon at me, just to trade for a single entry pass into the human fortress. She pointed at my right arm, mutated to save her, and screamed like a madwoman, telling the enforcement squad I was an infected mutant monster, begging the mech to execute the extermination protocol on me at once. I looked into her cold, calculating eyes, and felt nothing but disgust. But little did she know, in the next second the earth shattered with a deafening roar, and a pure white giant tiger over 100 meters long burst out of the ground, crushing that Vanguard mech with a single swipe of its claw. Under everyone's horrified gaze, that invincible king of all beasts actually lowered its head, and called my name in a deep choked voice. As it turned out, the so-called mutation wasn't infection at all. It was a divine force breaking the limits of carbon-based life, and all of this traces back to a desperate escape half a month ago. Just a few days earlier, the sky looked like it was covered by a thick sheet of frosted glass, with ghostly blue alien spores drifting through the air. This was Ruin City 047, once a thriving human home, now reduced to nothing but broken walls and rubble. My girlfriend Linda huddled beneath a collapsed, load-bearing wall, her pale face smeared with dust, trembling uncontrollably. She used to be the most admired beauty on campus, but half a month of running had broken her completely. She cried and asked if we were going to die here. I swallowed my last drop of dry saliva, handed her the final sip of water, and told her not to be afraid. If we could figure out the fortress patrol routes, we'd survive. Without me risking my life to protect her again and again this past half month, she would have long been food for the wasteland mutants. Just then, a massive engine roar came from overhead, and a column of blue searchlight tore through the haze. That was the symbol of humanity's highest military power, a Psionic Mech squadron sweeping past the distant ruins. Linda's face instantly lit up with wild joy, and she tried to scream for help, but I clamped my hand over her mouth and pressed her down into the shadows. With a grating, teeth-clenching clicking sound, a blade bore the size of a small car crawled down, its compound eyes glowing with cold red light, its saber-sharp forelimbs creeping closer inch by inch. The mech's roar faded into the distance, but death had arrived. The blade bore didn't hesitate for a second, and swung at Linda. I let out a low growl and shoved her aside, grabbing the rebar I'd prepared and stabbing it toward the beast's underside. The massive recoil instantly tore open my palm, and the rebar didn't pierce the shell. It bent in half. The boar's other forelimbs swept straight across my chest, sending me flying backward through a low wall. The searing pain nearly knocked me out on the spot. As the monster closed in again, my heart pounded violently, and a scorching surge erupted from deep within my chest, flooding through my veins into my right arm. It felt like my right arm was about to burst into flames, and dark golden scales actually began forming across my skin. A mechanical notification flashed through my mind. Unique tier talent, origin sequence is awakening. Partial Titan transformation complete. I had no time to process what was happening, because the boar's deadly blade was already slashing down at my head. Instinctively, I raised my scaled arm and caught it. What happened next shook the ruins. That forelimb capable of slicing through an armored vehicle was held fast in my grip. With a surge of raw, overwhelming power, the monster's rock-hard chitin exoskeleton shattered inch by inch. I followed through with a heavy punch straight into its belly, and the massive boar was sent flying by that inhuman force, slamming hard into the ruins beyond, twitching a few times before going still. The crisis passed. I gasped for breath, steadying my heartbeat, and the dark golden scales on my right arm slowly faded, returning to normal. I turned to give Linda a smile of relief, but what I saw was her pressed against the corner, trembling. In her eyes, there was no relief at all, only piercing, extreme terror, and deep disgust. She trembled as she whispered the word, monster. Those two words struck my heart like an icy hammer. Just as I opened my mouth to explain, a wave of dizziness hit me. The rank-breaking awakening had drained my strength in an instant. I slumped weakly against the rubble, my vision blurring. In that suffocating silence, 3 blinding beams of light suddenly descended from the sky, and 3 Vanguard mechs, 15 meters tall, landed, their cold steel armor flowing with ghostly blue patterns, their searchlights turning the ruins as bright as day. A synthesized voice came from the mech speakers, life signal detected. The fear in Linda's eyes was instantly swept away by ecstasy. She scrambled to her feet, stumbling toward the light, screaming that she was a survivor, begging them to save her. I knelt in the shadows, watching her back as she ran toward the light, reaching out my hand, only to grasp a fistful of cold air. The towering mech looked down at Linda, a green scanning beam sweeping across her body, confirming no signs of alien spore infection. Boarding approved. The mech's belly hatch opened, lowering a lift. Linda's eyes brimmed with tears of joy as she stepped onto it. But the pilot suddenly asked about another signal deep in the ruins, asking if it was her companion, and whether he was in a safe state. Linda's body froze in that instant. The human fortress had absolutely brutal evolutionary laws. Anyone who had contact with spores and developed mutations had to be exterminated, and anyone associated with mutants would be exiled to the wasteland. She turned to look at me, hidden in the shadows, unable to stand, and I looked back at her with desperate hope, praying she would save me. If she just said we were together, took me back to the medical bay, I might still survive on this brutal wasteland. But in the face of ultimate survival temptation, emotions crumbled to dust. She took a deep breath, her eyes turning coldly rational, and facing the comm, she said clearly that I was not her companion, and without hesitation added that I had grown monster scales. She said I was already infected, requesting immediate purification for safety. Just so she could enter the safe zone with clean records, she ruthlessly severed my lifeline. In the shadows, my pupils contracted as I stared at this woman, with no angry roar, no desperate pleading. So in the face of the wasteland, human emotion could be this cheap. The mech pilot received the report and immediately confirmed infection. The center mech mechanically raised its massive right arm. The dark barrel of the high-frequency particle cannon locked on me, ghostly blue energy surging and humming ominously. The shadow of death wrapped around me. Linda turned away, refusing to look at me, and stepped into the mech. To her, I was already trash from the past, left to die. I slowly closed my eyes, as a rage unlike anything I'd ever felt burned in my chest. If this was humanity's law, then to hell with it. The particle cannon's energy reached its peak, the lethal blue light about to fire. At that critical moment, the earth howled without warning, and the ruins for miles around shook violently. Countless boulders were lifted by an invisible force, floating in mid-air. As a pressure so terrifying it thickened the air rose skyward. The alarms inside the mech shrieked wildly, warning of an immeasurable transcendent tier energy reading. In the next second, under the horrified gaze of Linda and the pilot, a gigantic tiger claw, massive as a mountain and white as carved jade, burst from the earth, wreathed in golden aura capable of severing anything, and smashed down on the mech's energy shield like swatting a fly. The shield, supposedly capable of blocking a high-tier starbeast's full strike, shattered instantly. Then a domineering tiger's roar, loud enough to shatter the heavens, echoed through the ruins. "Who dares touch my son?" With that roar, the ruins collapsed, and a pure white giant beast, over 100 meters long, emerged, its body covered in fur white as polar snow, every strand glinting with a heart-stopping edge. Before this 100-meter colossus, humanity's proud mech looked like a plastic toy. Red alarm lights flashed madly inside the cockpit. Linda, in the co-pilot seat, had already gone weak in the legs, collapsing into her seat, her mind gone blank, her whole body trembling. The white tiger's beast pupils, blazing like golden suns, coldly swept across the mechs, and with just that gaze alone, the psionic cores let out overwhelmed whines. It raised its right paw. No technique, just pure mass. And the mech that had locked onto me, along with its particle cannon, was slapped into airborne scrap metal by the white tiger. The massive impact hurled the hundreds of tons mech through the air, smashing through more than a dozen buildings before finally going dead. The remaining two mechs were scared witless, not even daring to think of retaliation. They maxed out their engines and streaked away like light, fleeing frantically toward the fortress. In the swirling dust, the fleeing mechs looked like beaten dogs. The white tiger didn't chase. It halted its mountainous body, and the world-shaking pressure vanished in an instant. Under my stunned gaze, it gently lowered its head, its massive movements carrying a tenderness afraid of startling me. Its tiger head, larger than a heavy truck, leaned close, its golden pupils brimming with deeply human tenderness, warm breath gently brushing across my dusty cheek. Then a deep, choked, middle-aged male voice echoed in my mind. "Son, Dad's late. These years must have been hard on you." I froze on the spot. Even across 10 years, even though he had now become a terrifying giant beast, I still recognized the owner of that voice in an instant. My dry throat trembled out a single word. Dad. In 10 years of crawling through the wasteland, I'd never shed a tear, but in that moment my eyes reddened, every taut nerve finally relaxing, and my vision went black as I sank into deep sleep, cradled by the white tiger's gentle spiritual energy. I don't know how long I slept before I opened my eyes again, finding myself in a vast, life-filled cavern, the spiritual energy in the air tingling through my damaged meridians. A hearty laugh rang out, and I sat up sharply. I saw a towering man with muscles knotted like granite, striding over with a stone pot radiating energy waves, his wild white hair and the faint golden tiger stripes on his chest. This was my father Zayden, who had disappeared 10 years ago, searching for a cure. He ruffled my hair, eyes deep, and told me to eat first. As the stewed meat went down, a massive warmth repaired my hidden injuries. Father then revealed the world-shattering truth of the past decade. The alien spores were not a deadly virus meant to destroy humanity, but a catalyst Earth's will, accepted to resist high-dimensional attacks. The tycoons and fortress elite, to monopolize their ruling class status, concealed the truth, relied on externally powered cold mechs, and issued laws that branded anyone touching the evolutionary threshold as monsters. Father refused to accept it. He went deep into a meteor crater, fused with the first-generation spore, and now the entire 10,000 mountains honored him as the Metal Tiger King. Hearing this, my entire worldview shattered. I looked down at my right hand, remembered Linda's disgusted eyes, and asked Father if my scales were also a form of evolution. Father grabbed my arm, sensed it carefully, then erupted with joy. He slapped my shoulder excitedly, saying there were no chaotic genes in me. I had awakened the most perfect origin sequence in Earth's evolution vault. Others evolved into monsters, but I was breaking the limits of carbon-based life, becoming a god walking at the top of life's pyramid. Father burst into laughter and produced a king-tier beast core radiating starlight. He said he'd empty his entire king vault to feed me this essence and rebuild my golden body. A mercury-thick liquid wrapped around me instantly, and the violent energy tore through my cells brutally. I bit down hard, made no sound of pain, as Linda's cold, retreating figure replayed in my mind. To hell with that arrogant steel torrent. Today I will forge invincible power with flesh and blood. The pain faded, replaced by a sense of absolute control. I snapped my eyes open, and my right arm transformed. Flawless dark golden scales coated my muscles, and my fingertips extended into terrifying claws that sliced steel like clay. This was no longer twisted mutation. This was a titan arm of pure violent beauty. A casual clench of my fist made the air crack with explosive thunder. Father watched me reborn with satisfaction, pointed toward a distant canyon, and grinned wildly. An elite scavenger convoy had just arrived, and he told me to use my fists to tear those scrap metal mechs apart. Meanwhile, in the lower living district of the Skyvault Fortress, the air reeked of sharp engine oil and cheap perfume. Linda was groveling to a mechanic. She had thought turning me in would earn her upper residential status, but reality slapped her hard across the face. Without any background, she had to submit to this man, living worse than a dog, reading his moods every day. She stared at the thick energy shield outside the window, comforting herself that at least she had survived safely, certain that not even my bones remained. But at that very moment, beyond the shield in the endless wilderness, I was sprinting bare-chested like a leopard, the raging wind sharp as blades, yet unable to leave even a white mark on my skin. My eyes burned with fierce fighting spirit. Just then, radar detected a high-energy biological signature. The scavenger convoy halted on a ridge 2 kilometers out. The captain sneered, called me a low-tier infected, and sent 2 light mechs to clean me up. The 5-meter mechs roared their engines and raised their high-frequency chainsaw swords, the blades screaming toward my skull. My sprinting steps didn't stop. Instead, I pushed off hard and rocketed toward them like a cannonball. When the blade was less than half a meter from my head, my titan arm covered in dark golden scales rose up. A deafening clang of metal on metal echoed across the wilderness, and sparks burst into the air like a waterfall, exploding violently. Under the pilot's horrified gaze, the unstoppable chainsaw sword was blocked by my bare hand. Then my right hand crushed the special alloy, and my left arm clamped onto the mech's leg like an iron vise. A terrifying force beyond human measure erupted, and I swung the 10-ton mech single-handedly into the air, the cockpit flooded with red alarm lights. Without pause, I swung it like a massive hammer and smashed it into the other mech preparing to fire. The 2 steel giants collided violently in midair. No energy beams, only raw physical impact. Both mechs twisted into scrap instantly and crashed into the wilderness, blasting out a massive crater. The entire convoy stared at me like I was a monster. The captain, terrified out of his mind, screamed wildly, "Main cannon, charge up!" The heavy mech's psionic main cannon blazed with fearsome light. But my neural reflexes now rivaled a star beast's, and I became a dark golden after-image trailing sonic booms. The cannon beam grazed my after-image, shearing off half a mountain. But I was already in front of the mech. I slammed down a heavy punch. The half-meter-thick composite armor was torn through by my fist like wet paper. I grabbed the trembling captain by the collar and yanked him out like pulling a carrot. I told him to crawl back and tell the Fortress elite that this wilderness now belonged to me. I tore out the high-tier psionic core and vanished into the wind-blown sand. Father looked at the core and said the energy was nowhere near enough. Full-body replacement required a king-tier source, and the most perfect core had long been stolen by humans, forged into the power core of the Skyvault mobile fortress. Father told me to go rip the base out of that fortress. I gazed at the steel colossus at the edge of the windswept sands. That heaven Linda had sold her soul to enter. I clenched my right fist, my bones cracking clearly in the wind. Humanity's laws and Linda's false pride were about to be crushed beneath my feet. Then, cloaked, I slipped into the fortress's lower district, perfectly concealing my origin sequence energy. To the crude scanners, I was just another drifter. The lower district was packed with smugglers and runaway laborers. Linda was linked arm-in-arm with the mechanic, picking out purified water when she turned her head and froze. Even with my hood up, she would never mistake me. Her face went deathly pale, unable to believe I was still alive. A horrifying thought consumed her. If I told anyone she had murdered her boyfriend, she would be thrown off the fortress to feed the mutants. After the fear came even more extreme selfishness and venom. She clutched the mechanic's arm, forced out tears, and pointed at me, screaming he was a high-dimensional disguised infected. The mechanic's face changed instantly, and he immediately hit the emergency comm, calling the lower district security patrol, requesting on-site purification. Sharp alarms tore through the black market clamor. 2 8-meter riot mechs charged into the street, their high-voltage electromagnetic rifles locked on my head, cold, merciless warnings blaring from the speakers. I slowly set down the scrap part in my hand. No panic, no anger, just calmly turning my head toward Linda behind the crowd. My gaze was too calm, like looking at an ant, and that indifference deeply stabbed at her fragile pride. She screamed madly for them to open fire and kill me. The riot mech's rifles charged in an instant, ghostly blue high-voltage arcs shooting out like venomous snakes. I didn't activate the Titan arm, didn't even remove my cloak. I just slowly raised my left hand, flicked gently in midair, and a visible terrifying physical shockwave exploded outward. The high-voltage arcs crashed against the absolute vacuum barrier and scattered, unable even to lift a corner of my sleeve. The mech enforcement crew stared in shock, unable to believe it. I took a step forward, and the alloy ground beneath my foot shattered, spreading into 10-meter spiderweb cracks. Pressure from the top of the food chain made the mechs whine. I said, "Humans always love hiding weakness behind scrap metal." I raised my head, and the hood fell back, revealing my cold face. The dark golden scales on my right arm flickered faintly beneath my sleeve. "Since you think I'm an unforgivable monster, let me show you what a real disaster looks like." Just then, the highest blood-red alarm lit up over the inner city. The Silver Mech Night Order was cleared for full-arm deployment. That was the inner city's most elite Silver Mech Night Order, every unit equipped with the latest psionic light sword. Normally in the lower district, they were untouchable figures you couldn't even glimpse, but now they were treating me like a major threat, pouring out of the inner city passage. 10 silver-white killing machines surrounded me completely. The lead knight commander, with an arrogant tone, coldly ordered me to kneel immediately and hand over the mutated core inside my body. Linda, watching from a distance, trembled with excitement. She gripped the Mechanic Joe's hand tightly and screamed that I was absolutely dead this time, that I would be reduced to ashes, but she had no idea. Looking at these high and mighty mechs, my heart held only unstoppable excitement and fervor. The origin sequence inside me was roaring wildly, hungering to tear these hollow steel toys apart. No wasted words. My right arm completed the Titan transformation instantly, dark golden scales refracting death's glow under the bright lights. The commander roared and ordered a full-force execution. 10 azure psionic light swords slashed toward me simultaneously, temperatures capable of vaporizing the entire street erupting in an instant. But before the origin sequence's absolute physical strength, this so-called high technology was nothing but a massive joke. I slammed my legs down, shattering the alloy foundation within a 100-meter radius, appearing before one of the mechs, like teleportation, ignoring the psionic light sword that could cleave mountains. My dark golden claws pierced straight through the mech's chest, and I ripped out the blue glowing psionic core. The silver mech, drained of power, collapsed like scrap. The commander and every knight stared dumbstruck. The armor they took such pride in was paper-thin before me. I gave them no breathing time, no terror time. I became an ancient predator slaughtering sheep. One punch crushed a mech's head, one kick snapped another's load-bearing leg. In just half a minute, the lofty knight order became scraps scattered across the ground. The commander yanked his controls in a panic, trying to flee back to the inner city, but I dropped from the sky and stomped his cockpit flat. I looked down at Linda in the distance, now utterly collapsed. The hope just kindled in her eyes, swallowed by an endless abyss. The usually tyrannical Mechanic Joe snapped to his senses and slapped Linda hard across her pale face, cursing her for provoking a monster even the inner city couldn't handle. Linda slumped in despair among the oil-soaked ruins, staring at me with the terror of one seeing a true god. But I had no interest left in the regrets of such an ant. I looked up at the thick energy shield of the inner city. Directly beneath that luxurious inner city, I could clearly feel a massive heart beating, the power core of the entire Skyvault mobile fortress, the ancient King Tier beast core Dad sent me to retrieve. I drew a deep breath, and the dark golden scales on my right arm blazed with light. All my power gathering into my Titan arm, facing that shield supposedly absolutely impenetrable, I unleashed a punch capable of tearing the heavens. With an eardrum-shattering roar, the shield that had protected humanity's elite for decades actually showed under my fist, dense, countless cracks. The entire Skyvault fortress trembled violently. The Supreme Commander on the top deck stared at his screen, ice cold throughout. They couldn't understand. How could a discarded drifter unleash power comparable to a King-tier star beast? With a crisp, cracking sound, the shield shattered completely. I walked over the wreckage of mechs, step by step, into the inner city. The usually lofty tycoons and elite now fled and screamed like lower district drifters. I ignored them and walked straight toward the power core. The power room's gate was forged from hundreds of tons of super alloy, but before my Titan arm it was as fragile as paper. I drove my hands into the gap, and with a terrifying roar, ripped the fortress's mightiest gate apart with my bare hands. Beyond it was a vast abyss reactor chamber, with a dark red core the size of a small mountain floating in midair. The energy source of the entire Skyvault, the King-tier heart. Just being near it I could feel its destructive aura. My cells trembled like parched earth meeting rain. I leaped into the air without hesitation, punched the extraction device to pieces, and pressed my right hand directly onto that massive heart. The origin sequence's devour instinct was fully activated in an instant. The King-tier star beast's utterly pure source energy burst like a dam, surging through my right arm into every limb. The tearing pain was 100 times stronger than my first awakening, but I clenched my teeth and bore the inhuman torment. I would use the purest power in heaven and earth to rebuild my divine body. As I devoured, the fortress's lights flickered wildly, and the ghostly blue energy shield, drained of power, instantly died. Without the shield, Skyvault was fully exposed to the wilderness. From the distant wasteland came the greedy roars of countless mutants. The lower district instantly plunged into chaos more desperate than hell. Linda watched the dying lights and the flooding beasts and let out the most desperate, blood-curdling scream of her life. She finally understood. The steel fortress she'd sold her soul to survive in wasn't even a decent grave before true power. Meanwhile, inside the power room, I had reached the critical transformation. Dark golden scales spread from my right arm across my whole body, my bones reforming, my muscles cracking like steel. My original human form was rapidly evolving toward the ancient Titan. Just as my body was about to complete full Titan transformation, the power room's dome was suddenly ripped open by a terrifying force. A 30-meter-tall, fully dark gold ultimate mech descended. This was the Skyvault Lord's exclusive destruction-tier Judgment Mech. The Lord roared from the cockpit in a voice of terror and venom, saying, "How dare I, a lowly drifter, destroy the foundation of the fortress?" He activated the Starbreaker cannon embedded in the mech's chest, said to pierce the planet's core. Blinding red light lit the power room like the end of days, but I slowly opened my eyes, reflecting golden light, my dark golden Titan scales erupting with divine pressure. I casually crushed the drained husk of the King-tier core and faced that mountain-erasing Starbreaker cannon with a cold smile. I did not dodge, I charged straight up into the cannon's muzzle. Since you want to play, I'll smash your lord's dream right along with you. My dark golden scales blazed with divine pressure. What's a 30-meter judgment mech to me? Today I'm going to take you, this arrogant lord, along with your hollow rule, and smash it all to pulp. The violent energy swallowed me whole. The lord roared with wild, arrogant laughter in the cockpit, shouting that no one could withstand a direct Starbreaker cannon blast, that even a monster who devoured a king-tier core would die before this absolute technological might. But his laughter stopped dead the next second because from the center of that scorching red energy storm, a sky-blocking dark, golden giant hand reached out, that hand crossing the absolute binding of space, clamping down on the cannon's burning barrel. How is this possible? This can't be happening. The lord shrieked like he'd seen a ghost, the mech's entire alarm system failing at once. My body, vast as an ancient demon god, stepped out of the light, my human form completely transformed, my height raised to a terrifying 10-meter giant, flawless dark golden armor covering my entire body, every scale glowing with black hole luster. Origin sequence stage 2. Titan body, complete. With the slightest force, that unbreakable barrel crumpled like a plastic straw in my grip. Blinding electric sparks erupted across the mech's chest, and the lord frantically yanked at the escape system levers, but I wasn't about to give him any chance to cling to life. My dark golden giant hand, carrying a space-tearing sonic boom, slammed down on the Judgment Mech's chest armor, with a teeth-grinding shriek of twisting metal. This mech, representing humanity's peak military power, was punched clean through the chest by my fist. I grabbed the lord hiding in the core cockpit and yanked him out of the wreckage like grabbing a chick. His flashy uniform was soaked in oil and blood, and he writhed like a broken-spined dog in my grip. He wept and begged me to spare his dog's life, saying he'd give me the whole Skyvault fortress, hand over all the wealth and women inside. I looked at this disgusting face corrupted by power, and felt only endless cold and lofty mockery. I'd said it. You parasites who steal energy must pay for 10 years of crimes today. I snapped my 5 fingers shut, and amid pig-squealing screams, this supreme tyrant who had ruled Skyvault for 10 years was squeezed into bloody pulp like a crushed tomato, along with his laughable dream of rule, completely erased. With the lord dead and the shield gone, the entire mobile fortress plunged into a hopeless death zone. Across the distant wasteland, terrifying yellow sand rose, and tens of thousands of mutants caught the scent of flesh and blood, surging into lower district like a black tide. The once lofty steel walls became mere decoration, as common folk and smugglers wailed in despair. Linda, meanwhile, had collapsed at a sewer entrance, her whole body covered in mud and the reeking blood of monsters. The mechanic Joe, who'd promised to protect her, shoved her out the moment the first wave hit, then stole a hovering bike and fled alone. Linda watched the red-eyed boars close in, tumbling over herself in terror, leaving behind foul stains on the ground. She clawed at her own hair, almost losing her mind completely. Why is this happening? She had made it into the safe zone, she'd traded my corpse for peace, and yet in less than half a day heaven had become hell. Just as a boar raised its forelimb to cleave her dead, the sky suddenly darkened, as if a mountain were pressing down. My 10-meter titan body leaped from the ruins with a thunderous crash, crushing those boars into pulp. The massive shockwave cleared the surrounding monsters. Linda stared blankly at my divine dark golden back, recognizing my silhouette instantly. Ryan, is that you? You came to save me, didn't you? She threw herself at me like grabbing a lifeline, shamelessly wrapping her arms around my calf and wailing. She said she'd been wrong, that the rules had forced her hand. She said she'd always loved me in her heart, begged me to take her away. She'd do anything if I'd forgive her. I looked down, gazing at her coldly like she was garbage. The origin sequence gave me not only power, but divinity. For this kind of vile soul who'd sell anything for survival, I couldn't even be bothered to kill her myself. I slowly raised my leg and kicked her away like a reeking stone. Weren't you the one who loved humanity's survival laws the most? Then enjoy them out here on the wasteland. Even glancing at her once more felt like dirtying my eyes. So I ignored her breakdown screams and strode toward the wilderness beyond the fortress, countless mutants swarming to tear her apart behind me. From that day on, this woman was not even dust in my life. The moment I stepped out of the Skyvault ruins, the entire earth trembled with a violent wave, and a pressure wave tens of kilometers wide appeared on the horizon. My dad, in his 100-meter tiger form, arrived with an army, tens of thousands of terrifying beings, at minimum high-tier star beasts, all prostrating themselves from the depths of their souls at the sight of my 10-meter dark golden titan body. This was the instinctive submission of lower life to the divine sequence. Dad's massive white tiger body stopped before me, his sun-like vertical pupils full of fevered pride. He transmitted through spiritual energy, his voice shaking with excitement. Good boy, I knew you could punch a hole in the sky. Not only did you drain a king-tier core, you completed Titan transformation. Now even the old monsters hiding in Central Eden City would have to crawl and take a beating from you. I reined in my violent energy, returning to human size, and though my appearance was normal, I could feel the destructive power inside. I looked at Dad and asked, "What exactly is Central Eden City?" Dad's wild grin faded, his eyes turning unprecedentedly grave. He said Skyvault was just a dumping ground the tycoons had abandoned. The real elite and those who knew the truth of the alien spores had long since used ruins to build a floating divine city in the stratosphere, Central Eden City, a self-proclaimed forbidden zone of gods. They stole 90% of Earth's ancient cores, and were even conducting terrifying experiments to seize high-dimensional will And the perfect unique tier origin sequence awakening in me was exactly the ultimate dissection subject every mad scientist dreamed of. If they detected the energy signature of Skyvault's destruction, Eden City's Judgment Angel Legion would deploy in full force. As I listened to Dad, I felt no fear at all. Instead, the fighting spirit that had just settled erupted like a volcano. For 10 years, Dad and I had survived like dogs in the wasteland, smeared by hypocritical tycoons as damn mutant freaks. Now that I held divine power, how could I settle for being king of rubble? I clenched my dark golden fist, capable of crushing a mech with ease, and a cold curl of my lips dropped the surrounding temperature. Since they call themselves gods and treat us like pitiful bugs, then I'll climb up into the stratosphere myself and shatter their throne of gods. Dad saw the madness in my eyes and erupted into wild laughter. That's my son Zayden's blood, all right. If we're doing this, we're flipping heaven and earth. Dad's massive tiger claw slammed into the depths beneath Skyvault, and from the planetary core he tore out a metal vault. A warship that was a miracle even by wasteland standards. Dad said this was the treasure he'd risked his life to salvage 10 years ago. With enough high-tier cores to power it, we could break through the atmosphere and strike straight at Eden City's face. I looked at this terrifying war beast radiating deep dark luster, and threw every mech core I'd harvested into the power bay without hesitation. But this was still far from enough to wake this giant that had slept for countless eras. Dad turned his tiger head toward the deepest end of the wasteland, saying in the far north lay a terrifying abyss rift, where a calamity-tier void beast over 1,000 years old was coiled, and if we could tear out its destruction core, the warship could be reborn. But even at full strength, Dad wouldn't dare easily set foot there. Its frost breath could flash freeze a heavy mech squadron in an instant. I said nothing, just looked coldly toward that death zone eternally shrouded in storms. For me now, there was no monster my fist couldn't break. I leaped onto Dad's plaza-wide white tiger back, and commanded the army of tens of thousands behind me to march mightily toward the northern abyss. Every human scavenger convoy and small mobile fortress along the way wet themselves in sheer terror, frantically calling for help on the public channels. Days later, our army finally entered the absolute zero of the far north. The air here was cold enough to make steel shatter like glass in an instant. The blizzards carried ice blades fast enough to shred a human body, and even thick-skinned high-tier star beasts were falling under the onslaught. I activated partial origin Titan body to shield myself, my dark golden scales radiating searing warmth against the cold in the storm. Just as we were about to reach the massive ice cavern at the abyss's core, a clear row of footprints appeared across the white snowfield ahead. Dad's massive body stopped cold, a low warning roar rumbling out. He said these prints didn't belong to any mutant. They were from ultra-high technology. I looked closely and saw the edges were perfectly regular, clearly left by some kind of anti-gravity humanoid armor. Had Central Eden City already found this calamity beast before us? The moment that alarming thought crossed my mind, a piercing inhuman scream suddenly came from deep within the storm ahead, followed by a ghostly blue energy pillar, thick as a mountain, shooting into the sky, blasting a massive hole through the 10,000-year ice clouds above the abyss. That was absolutely not power an ordinary mech cannon could output. It was at least 10 times stronger than the Lord's Starbreaker cannon. Dad immediately hid his massive body behind a huge iceberg. I silently crept toward the source of the energy burst. When I lay at the edge of the ice cavern and saw what was happening below, even with the divine sequence awakened, I still couldn't help drawing a sharp breath. At the bottom of the abyss, the calamity beast, the size of 2 aircraft carriers, was actually pinned to the ground by several light chains radiating holy white light. Its body was riddled with terrifying wounds down to the bone, blue blood flowing like rivers. And the one standing on this 1,000-year-old beast Dad himself feared was a stunningly beautiful figure in nothing but a thin white trench coat. She wasn't piloting any mech, not even the lowest-tier wasteland kind, yet she floated in mid-air more than 10 meters off the ground, like a god descended. 6 pairs of light wings, made entirely of high-dimensional psionic energy, spread from her back, exactly like the 6-winged angel of human myth. She coldly watched the void beast struggle beneath her, and extended a slender, bloodless white finger, and with a single light touch the beast's unbreakable skull was pierced like tofu. A destruction ice-blue core radiating terrifying aura was forcibly extracted by her. I stared at this mysterious silver-haired woman who'd killed the calamity beast barehanded, and for the first time, my origin sequence sent out an extremely intense frantic warning, an extreme instinctive response to encountering a life-threatening absolute natural enemy. Just as I was about to quietly retreat and consult with Dad, the 6-winged woman in midair abruptly turned her head, those ice-blue pupils devoid of any human emotion locking onto my position across the storm and vast distance. A cold, machine-like voice exploded through my mind. "Found you, Subject 001, the ultimate origin perfect specimen." That cold voice carried some kind of mental piercing force. I felt a violent tremor deep in my mind, but my origin sequence instantly erupted with light, and dark golden energy shattered the mental invasion in an instant. Dad's massive white tiger body took a sudden step forward, his violent pressure turning into a storm that scattered the surrounding snow. Dad let out a deafening warning roar, eyes locked on the silver-haired woman hovering in midair. But the 6-winged angel didn't take Dad's pressure seriously at all. Her light wings gave just one gentle flutter, and she vanished on the spot, becoming a spatial afterimage. My neural reflexes had already reached the limit of carbon-based life, yet I could only catch faint ripples left in the air. Danger instinct made me activate Titan Body Stage 2 instantly, and dark golden scales covered every inch of my skin in a heartbeat. The moment the armor finished forming, In that very instant, a pale white palm pressed against my chest without warning. No earth-shaking boom, no dazzling lights, just a surge of utterly pure high-dimensional energy erupting. My supposedly invincible Titan body let out a muffled grunt as I was sent hurtling backward like a meteor, slamming into the iron-hard ancient iceberg behind me. The thick black ice shattered across a wide area, ice shards flying everywhere. I used the recoil to steady myself among the rubble. Dad, shocked and enraged, swung his massive claw down through the air, his golden metal aspect energy turning into countless blades sealing her retreat. Complex data streams flickered in the woman's ice-blue eyes, and the space around her began twisting bizarrely. Dad's attack, strong enough to crush a heavy fortress, slid straight to one side, and several towering ice peaks in the distance were leveled by the aftershock. Was this the power of Central Eden City's Judgment Angels? Such mastery over space and energy was simply incomprehensible, but I would absolutely not retreat before such an arrogant false god. I slammed my legs down, shattering the ice, and charged like lightning, my right arm gathering all the power of the origin sequence, smashing hard at her shield. Just as I thought she couldn't defend and was ready to pull back, the 6 light wings behind her suddenly transformed into 6 massive light chains, piercing through the void in an instant, locking Dad's massive limbs in place. Dad roared in fury, struggling desperately but unable to move an inch. The woman's cold, merciless gaze locked onto me again. You are merely an incomplete low-tier energy vessel. A highly dangerous high-dimensional light sword formed in her hand from thin air, and she swung it straight down at my skull with world-tearing force. Lethal danger forced me to twist my body and dodge the vital area, the light sword grazing my shoulder, kicking up a trail of blinding sparks. Even Titan's scales were sliced with a deep white gash. I endured the stabbing pain, and my left hand clamped onto the edge of the light sword. I forced the origin sequence's devour instinct into overdrive once more, and began forcibly absorbing the high-dimensional psionic energy from the blade. For the first time, a flicker of astonishment appeared in her impassive eyes. She clearly hadn't expected a specimen like me to devour her power. In the moment of her hesitation, my dark, golden claws shot straight at her face, but my real target was the Calamity Beast's core in her other hand. My claws suddenly changed trajectory in midair, cutting a strange arc, and snatched the ice-blue core radiating destruction aura right out of her grip. Losing the core, the woman swiftly retreated, steadying herself in midair, and the blue data streams in her eyes began flickering at a frantic speed. She stared at me coldly and said, "You think this is enough to escape?" The moment she finished speaking, her light wings began burning violently. Across the entire sky above the northern abyss appeared a colossal city phantom, Central Eden City's ultimate cross-space energy projection. Countless destructive beams gathered frantically within the phantom city. Dad summoned every ounce of strength to break free from the chains, and roared for me to take the core and flee. He turned himself into a massive white shield, blocking my escape route. I didn't dare hesitate for a second, and sprinted with all my might, the ice-cold core in hand, as a world-ending energy surge erupted behind me. Countless glaciers vaporized instantly under the indiscriminate beams. Relying on sheer physical toughness, we tore our way out of the blast zone. When we returned to where the slumbering ancient warship rested, we were both in rough shape, but thankfully neither of us had suffered irreversible damage. Dad's snow-white fur was now singed black in places, and he gritted his teeth, saying those lunatics had actually turned themselves into terminals. I decisively threw the Calamity core into the warship's reactor. Combined with the core energy we'd already gathered, we finally hit the startup threshold. A low hum rose slowly from the depths of the warship's metal, like an ancient giant waking from eons of sleep. Mysterious ghostly blue lines lit up across the hull, and massive anti-gravity thrusts lifted the warship slowly from the ice. Dad stood in the spacious command room, eyes burning with fervor. "Target stratosphere! Today we flattened that divine city." The warship became a blinding streak of light, breaking through the ancient ice clouds, racing toward the upper atmosphere at unbelievable speed. The warship's internal gravity simulation ran flawlessly. We stared at the screen as the stratosphere coordinates drew closer. Eden City's true form finally revealed itself above the clouds. A magnificent, colossal city built entirely of crystal and specialized alloys, surrounded by countless satellite-like heavy defense fortresses. Just when I thought the warship could sneak through the defense line, the main screen flickered twice and turned blood red. A huge, cold human face appeared eerily on the display, and that face was identical to the 6-winged angel we'd just faced. It announced in a flat synthetic voice, "Exterminate the intruders." Every weapon system and shield on the warship failed in an instant. Worse still, the reactor temperature began spiking abnormally. Someone had forcibly hijacked the highest control remotely from outside. Dad frantically pounded the console, trying to sever the external connection, but nothing worked. I took a deep breath and slammed my scaled right hand onto the main console, dark golden origin energy pouring wildly through my arm into the ship's system. I used the highest dimensional life magnetic field to overwrite her AI code, and 2 utterly different forces clashed fiercely inside the warship's neural network. The warship shook violently in the stratosphere, as if it might disintegrate in midair any moment. I gritted my teeth, pushing the origin sequence's processing power to the limit. Finally, after a blinding burst of internal electric sparks, that eerie face let out a sharp, piercing electronic wail. The screen returned to the ghostly blue glow of a safe state. I'd successfully taken back control, but the warship's position was fully exposed. Eden City's outer defense fortresses instantly entered full combat mode, dense anti-air energy matrices locking onto our airspace. tens of thousands of destructive beams weaving into a death net with no blind spots. Dad acted instantly, taking over the warship's manual controls himself. The massive, ancient warship moved like a slippery eel in Dad's hands, pulling off physics-defying dodges through the dense beam gaps, while I focused entirely on operating the main cannon for precision counterattacks. Ghostly blue high-energy shells struck the outer defense nodes dead on, and across the sky gorgeous, lethal energy bursts bloomed one after another. This was no longer just a contest of technology, it was a pure crushing of raw energy. Pressing through the barrage, we tore straight through that impregnable defense net. The warship, trailing thick black smoke, smashed through Eden City's outer shield and crashed down onto a massive crystal skyport plaza at the Divine City's edge. The terrifying impact crushed countless exquisite floating buildings instantly. The warship's mangled hatch collapsed, and I stepped out with heavy strides, my towering Titan body radiating heart-stopping pressure in the sunlight. Dad transformed into his 100-meter white tiger form in an instant, and let out a sky-shaking roar, announcing that the rebels from the wasteland had officially arrived in this forbidden zone of gods. The plaza was soon swarmed by densely packed silver-white Divine City guards, clad in advanced high-tech combat armor and wielding high-frequency psionic weapons. But before our level of power, they were utterly no match. A casual punch from me sent hundreds of guards flying with a terrifying shockwave. Dad moved like a force of nature, every swing of his massive claw flattening entire rows of elite armor into heaps of scrap. We advanced down the wide crystal boulevard of the main district toward the city center, and the eerie sights along the way shook me to the core. This bustling city held no trace of natural life whatsoever. Every plant and landscape was made of mechanisms and solidified energy, and even the fleeing civilians wore blank expressions, utterly dazed. I noticed that every one of them had an energy conduit plugged into the back of their skull, connecting them to the cloud. This place is no holy sanctuary. It's a massive farm of lies. Just when I think we can charge straight into the inner city in one push, the grand buildings along Crystal Avenue suddenly twist into something monstrous. Hundreds of biomech hounds burst out. They have no eyes, only a single massive eyeball glowing red. That eye pulses with a sickening dark red corrosive light. Dad smashes the lead hound with one swipe of his claw, but its shattered body sprays out thick green poison gas. Dad accidentally breathes it in, and his huge body suddenly lights up. His face changes. This gas dissolves high-dimensional energy. Don't touch it. I instantly raise an origin sequence energy barrier to block the toxic gas, but these hounds don't fight us head-on. They rush at us like maniacs and self-destruct against the shield. The green gas thickens by the second, sealing off the entire street. I can feel my barrier eroding fast, hissing as it burns. If this keeps up, this twisted gas will swallow us alive. My eyes turn cold. I activate Titan Body Stage 3. The dark gold scales on my skin ignite with destructive black fire, the strongest power the origin sequence can wield right now, the flames of annihilation. I slam both fists into the ground. A ring of raging black fire explodes outward. Wherever the flames spread, the green gas is incinerated in an instant. Any hound trying to charge in and self-destruct turns to ash. Once the gas clears, the massive energy gate of the inner city finally comes into view. I stride right up to it, ready to break it open with raw force. Just as my dark gold fist is about to hit the gate, its surface ripples like water, a strange shimmering ripple. A man in an ornate white robe trimmed with gold steps out of it, wearing an exquisite golden mask that covers the upper half of his face. The lips beneath curl into a smile that makes my skin crawl. He looks at me, claps softly and says, "Truly, the perfect subject 001. His voice is strangely magnetic, but it sets off every alarm in my body. "Cut the act," I snap. "Today is the day Eden City dies." The masked man shakes his head, his tone full of contempt. "You have no idea what the truth of this world is." He casually snaps his fingers. The energy gate behind him slides open. What I see freezes both me and Dad mid-attack. It is a massive, bottomless, transparent cloning vat matrix, packed with countless human clones all floating in stasis, and every single one of them has my exact face. Their eyes are shut. Their pale bodies are pierced by extraction tubes. The masked man spreads his arms like he's showing off a masterpiece, and laughs madly. "Welcome back to your birthplace, my proudest ultimate vessel. What is going on? Am I not Dad's real son?" I whip my head around to look at Dad, desperate for an answer. Dad's massive white tiger body trembles unnaturally. Pain flickers in his gold-lit eyes, pain he has buried for years. "Ryan, this is a long story, but I, Zayden, am truly your father." The masked man bursts out laughing, and cuts him off without mercy. "He just stole a genetic embryo from our lab and decided to play daddy. You are nothing but a disposable product, grown from fragments of an ancient god's genes. Your only purpose is to receive the descent of a supreme high-dimensional will." His words shatter everything I thought I knew. My mind roars. 10 years of struggling on the cruel wasteland, 10 years of father and son leaning on each other. Was all of it just a carefully staged experiment and a pile of lies? The origin energy inside me starts running wild from the emotional shock. Just as I'm about to crack completely, Dad lets out a roar of grief and rage that shakes the entire Divine City dome. His massive body bursts into blinding white soul flame. He throws himself at the arrogant masked man. "No one denies the 10 years we lived through together on the wasteland. Die, you sickening fake gods who treat life like dirt." Dad burns his life potential into this single strike, and the power is terrifying. Pure metal tiger aura forms a massive, solid tiger phantom that opens jaws wide enough to swallow a warship, aiming to crush the masked man and the gate together. The masked man sneers, not bothering to dodge. Behind him, thousands of eerie red lights ignite inside the cloning vat matrix. Hundreds, thousands of my clones open their eyes at the same instant, and they all throw out dark gold punches that look just like mine. Hundreds of fake Titan strikes merge into one terrifying beam, slamming straight into Dad's tiger phantom in midair over the plaza. The light is so blinding the city's surveillance system goes dark. The violent energy blast hurls Dad and me away in opposite directions. Dad crashes hard onto the crystal ground, his breath ragged and weak. The proud white fur on his body has lost its shine. I rush over, pour pure origin energy into him, and stabilize his wounds. Dad gives me a bitter smile. Ryan, don't listen to that bastard. Bloodline doesn't mean a damn thing. You are the only son Zayden will ever have. Looking at Dad, weak but unshakable, every doubt in my heart vanishes, replaced by a fury 100 times fiercer than before. I don't care who made me. I don't care what kind of damn high-dimensional vessel I'm supposed to be. I only know who risked his life for 10 years on that brutal wasteland to raise me. I rise slowly to my feet, staring straight at the masked man who still stands above us. The black flames of annihilation on my body turn white-hot from sheer rage. I look him in the eye and say, word by word, whatever sick descent plan you have, today I'm leaving this place without a single intact crystal. Seeing this, the masked man's eyes finally show a flicker of unease. He gives the order coldly. Since the defective unit is out of control, physically destroy it now. At his command, hundreds of clones surge out like zombies. They have no minds of their own, but their combat instincts are terrifying. Each one has the raw physical strength of my Stage 1 Titan form. I let out a roar that splits the sky, become a dark gold war god, and charge straight into the black tide of clones head-on. No fancy energy techniques, only the purest collision of flesh. One punch shatters a clone's defensive armor, sending it flying, and I grab another clone by the arm and swing it like a club into the crowd. They wear my face, but I feel no pity, because they are nothing but Cold War fodder with their souls erased. But I quickly realize these clones share tactical vision through a network. Their attacks coordinate perfectly, and I'm slowly forced onto the back foot. Fine cracks start spreading across my Titan scales under their relentless blows. The white-hot flames dim from massive energy drain. The masked man watches it all from his high throne, smirking with smug satisfaction. Just when I'm thinking about detonating my origin core and taking them all down with me, the artificial sky above Eden City rips open. A massive black starship, 10 times bigger than our own warship, forces its way through. From its underside, a blinding deep purple beam shoots out, like a sword of the gods, locking precisely onto me and the clones around me. The instant the clones touch the purple light, they dissolve into specks of light without even a moment to struggle. They are wiped from physical existence completely. I feel a gentle but unstoppable force lift me into the air. A commanding, sharp female voice echoes across the city. I want to see who in this universe dares to touch the child of hope the Star Sea Resistance has been searching for. Seeing the sky-blocking black starship, the masked man's face goes deathly pale. He cries out in raw terror. The Star Sea Resistance? How could you possibly find this place? No one on the starship answers. There is only the terrifying hum of the main cannon charging. A pure white pillar of light blasts straight into Eden City's central command, a dimensional strike infinitely more terrifying than the Skyvault's mature Starbreaker cannon. A massive energy ring explodes at the city center, flipping countless sky fortresses. The masked man can't even scream before the white light swallows him whole. I take the chance, lift Dad, now back in human form and badly wounded, onto my shoulder, and ride the purple beam up into the black starship. The technology inside this ship is way beyond anything I can comprehend. A woman in a tight black combat suit with sharp red hair walks up to me. She looks at me with eyes full of complicated relief. Let me introduce myself. I am Scarlet, Supreme Commander of the 7th Fleet of the Resistance. We have been searching for you, the perfect origin vessel, for 10 full years. She leads me down a metal corridor to a newly built hyperdimensional medical recovery bay, and places the unconscious Dad into a recovery pod filled with green life essence. Then she turns and looks at me, her tone deadly serious as she lays out the truth. Those self-proclaimed gods of Eden City are nothing but puppets on strings. The real masterminds are the high-dimensional crystal parasites hidden on the dark side of the moon. They are using Eden City to harvest Earth's psionic energy, planning to drag the entire planet into the higher dimensions. The perfect origin sequence awakened inside you is the only key that can end them. Listening to Scarlet's earth-shattering secrets, I feel myself pulled into something far bigger than I imagined, but I don't flinch. I clench my dark gold fists, look her dead in the eye and say, wherever the real enemy is, I will crush them. Scarlet nods in approval. But before that, you need real systematic training. Right now, your origin sequence runs purely on instinct. You've unlocked less than 10% of its potential. Next, I will take you to the Resistance's secret base for Hell-level training. The black starship slowly turns its massive bow above the burning ruins of Eden City. Its engines flare with blue warp drive light, and in an instant we shoot through the atmosphere as a streak of light, heading into the vast, unknown, terrifying depths of deep space. The warp drive hums low. Outside the viewport, starlight stretches into brilliant ribbons. I stand in front of the giant holographic star map in the main control room in silence. Scarlet walks up beside me, hands me a cup of green nutrient serum. This is a recovery drink extracted from pure stellar energy. I take it and drain it in one swallow, feeling power flood through me. After traveling at faster than light speed for who knows how long, the ship finally drops out of warp deep inside a chaotic asteroid belt. The asteroids here gleam with an eerie dark purple metallic shine. Scarlet points at the largest broken asteroid. We're here. The ship's bow fires a complex unlocking beam that scans the asteroid's surface. The lifeless rock slowly splits open on both sides, revealing a massive underground steel starport. Strange warships move in and out of the docks. This is the Resistance headquarters, hidden for hundreds of years. I follow Scarlet off the ship and step onto the hard alloy deck. The Resistance soldiers around us stare at me with awe, whispering that I am the perfect origin vessel. I ignore the looks and head straight for the medical bay. Dad is still asleep in the recovery pod, and I need to make sure he's safe. Scarlet seems to read my mind and tells me to relax. Dad's vital signs are completely stable. Just as I let out a breath and start to ask about the training, the highest level red alarm screams across the entire starport. Just when I think this hidden headquarters is absolutely safe, a young soldier escorting me suddenly screams. Right before my eyes, his skin starts crystallizing fast. Sharp, dark blue crystals pierce out of his veins. The surrounding soldiers back away in horror, raising their energy rifles. Scarlet's face darkens. She shouts, "It's a high-frequency resonance from the high-dimensional crystal parasites." She pulls the pulse saber from her belt, ready to give the soldier a merciful death. I grab her wrist. Wait, I might be able to save him. Without hesitation, I activate Titan Body Stage 1. Dark gold scales spread across my right palm. I grip the soldier's crystallizing shoulder and push the origin sequence's devour instinct to its limit. An overwhelming pull surges into every limb of his body. The growing dark blue crystal stops spreading. The high-dimensional parasitic energy is ripped out of him by the power of origin, flows up my arm, and is sucked into the origin core in my chest. The soldier collapses to the floor in pain, gasping for air. He has lost half an arm, but he is alive. Watching me dismiss a fatal crystal infection like it was nothing, Scarlet's eyes blaze with a fanatic, hopeful light. You really are a final trump card against the dark side of the moon. That resonance means the enemy has already sensed your presence. They're using a high-dimensional broadcast to lock onto our coordinates. We are out of time. Training begins right now. I follow Scarlet through layer after layer of defended underground corridors, all the way to a massive gravity isolation chamber door at the deepest part of the base. The terrifying energy pulse coming through that door makes my scales rise on their own. Scarlet speaks gravely. This is the Resistance's ultimate trial, the Abyss Forge. It simulates the most extreme high-dimensional crystal pressure on the dark side of the moon. Even the elite of the Resistance can't last more than 3 minutes inside. I look at the heavy alloy door, and a cold smile tugs at my lips. If I'm going to smash the throne of gods, this kind of trial is just about right. The door slowly opens. A wave of visible gravity rolls out at me. Without hesitation, I stride straight inside. The alloy door slams shut behind me, locking me in. The world around me instantly turns into a dark blue crystal wasteland. The air is thick with high-dimensional radiation that feels almost solid. It's like tens of thousands of tons of steel pressing down on my shoulders. Every breath stabs like swallowing broken glass. I immediately activate Titan Body Stage 2. Dark gold scales cover my entire body, glowing fierce against the dark blue space. The Forge's system AI announces a cold countdown. The first wave of crystal energy tide will arrive in 10 seconds. I bend my legs slightly, settling into a perfect defensive stance. Boom! The crystal ground around me explodes outward. Countless blue blades of high-dimensional energy sweep over me like a storm. I throw my dark gold fists into the storm of blades, smashing every one of them. Each collision sends out blinding sparks and bursts of energy. Under this extreme pressure, the origin sequence begins evolving on its own. I can feel my cells greedily absorbing this high-pressure energy. This kind of grinding right on the edge of life and death makes my blood boil. Just when I think I've fully adapted to the Forge's extreme pressure, the dark blue crystals of the simulation suddenly melt away. A massive transparent crystal claw reaches straight out of the void. This isn't a simulation anymore. This is a real cross-dimensional projection of a high-dimensional entity. The sickening aura of the moon's dark side parasites washes over me. The claw comes down with the kind of pressure that could crush stars. My Titan scales actually start to wail under it, but inside me the will to fight isn't crushed. It explodes. I throw my head back and roar with defiance, activating Stage 3. My dark gold body instantly ignites with the white-hot flames of annihilation. I shatter the virtual crystal ground beneath me with one push of my legs and rocket upward as a white meteor, straight at that terrifying claw. Flames of annihilation and high-dimensional crystal collide in midair. No deafening thunder, just a black hole swallowing even light itself. I pour every ounce of origin energy into my right fist. Break, damn you! Teeth clenched, I roar like an ancient war god. With one crystal-clear snap, that arrogant crystal claw shatters under my single punch. The violent backlash not only destroys the cross-dimensional projection link, it blows the entire gravity isolation chamber of the Abyss Forge to pieces. The thick alloy wall of the underground base now has a gaping hole through it. I walk out slowly through the smoke and screaming alarms, the white flames fading, my body returning to dark gold scales. Scarlet and a group of resistance commanders stare at me from the rubble like they're looking at a creature that has shattered every rule. Scarlet swallows hard, her voice trembling. You actually blew the unbreakable abyss forge open from the inside? I brush metal shards off my shoulder casually. Toys at this level can't push my sequence anymore, I say calmly. Since the crystal parasites are this eager to die, let's head straight to the dark side of the moon and tear them out by the root. Scarlet takes a deep breath, her gaze hardening with fierce resolve. Yes, the entire 7th Fleet will follow Lord Origin to the death. 3 days later, a specially modified strike ship leaves headquarters. It carries the Resistance's most advanced energy-shielding stealth tech. Our target, straight into the hive on the dark side of the moon. Dad has fully recovered to peak strength, thanks to the recovery serum. He stands beside me, staring at Earth's nearest moon on the star map. Ryan. This time Dad takes the lead. Father and son together we tear that nest down. The ship slips silently through the dark space, moving fast. As we get closer to the moon, a heavy, suffocating feeling settles over me. From space, the moon's backside isn't a barren, cratered surface at all. It's wrapped in an incredibly thick purple-black crystal shell. Countless tentacle-like crystal pipes dig deep into the moon's core, frantically draining the last of its star core energy. Scarlet works the controls quickly. The ship enters silent stealth mode. We're about to cross the high-dimensional energy defense net around the crystal shell. Everyone activate personal energy shields to protect against mental pollution. I look at the disgusting, massive purple-black crystals outside the viewport. The Origin sequence's devour instinct stirs again, growling with hunger. The ship slides into a gap in the defense net like an invisible steel needle. Just as we're about to land on the moon's surface, every radar screen on the bridge bursts into static. Just when I think our stealth has fooled every scan, a crash slams into the top of the ship like it's tearing the hull apart. A crystal bone dragon over 500 meters long smashes onto the armor. Its razor crystal claws shred the stealth coating in an instant. Inside its massive, dark purple eye sockets burns a cold, high-dimensional soul flame. Scarlet gasps. It's bad. This is the Hive's ultimate guardian, the Abyss Dragon. It opens a massive jaw built from countless crystal clusters and spews destruction breath. The purple-black dragon breath melts straight through the ship's thick outer energy armor. Alarms scream inside the ship. The cabin's gravity system fails instantly. I grab Scarlet before she gets sucked out and toss her to a safe zone. Dad lets out a roar and transforms into a 100-meter pure white giant tiger right inside the cabin. Pushing against the tearing wind from the ruptured hull, he leaps out to face that terrifying abyss dragon. I activate Titan Body without hesitation and charge into space right behind him. In airless vacuum, we can only communicate by mental link. Dad's white tiger body looks small next to the 500-meter dragon, but fearless of death, he swings his metal tiger claws and smashes hard into the dragon's frame. With a flash of blinding light, one of the abyss dragon's ribs cracks on the spot, but the abyss dragon doesn't feel pain. It whips its tail at Dad. The massive force sends him flying through a crystal crater. My eyes flash cold. Dark gold scales burst out of my back and form 2 pairs of dominant Origin dragon wings made entirely of Origin energy, a new form of the Origin sequence I just unlocked inside the Abyss Forge. The wings beat hard. I rip a blue streak across space and close the distance instantly, landing square on the Abyss Dragon's broad back. White-hot flames flare around my fists. Stay down. I hammer down with both fists like pile drivers, every punch carrying enough force to flatten mountains. The Abyss Dragon's tough crystal spine starts cracking inch by inch under my relentless blows. It twists its massive body in agony, trying to throw me off, but I cling to it like a leech. My legs lock onto its crystal bones. My hands grab the core soul crystal at the back of its neck. Devour instinct at full power, I start ripping the Abyss Dragon's high-dimensional energy out of it. The dragon roars in soundless soul agony, thrashing wildly in space. The high-dimensional radiation pouring off it could drive a normal person instantly insane, but the Origin core in my chest is like a black hole that never fills. It keeps converting that deadly radiation into fuel for my evolution. Within seconds, the Abyss Dragon's struggle weakens visibly. The cold soul flame in its eyes flickers like a candle in the wind. I roar, both arms erupting with force. With a sharp crack, I rip out the now empty Abyss core. The Abyss Dragon disintegrates in an instant, scattering into countless specks of purple cosmic dust. I float in space and crush the energy-rich crystal in my hand, absorbing it whole. The Origin sequence's evolution surges again. I can feel I'm one step away from perfection. Dad bursts out of the broken crater, shaking purple crystal dust off his fur. He laughs through the mental link. Nicely done. Truly the son Zayden is most proud of. Crisis over. Scarlet barely manages to land the heavily damaged ship on the crystal ground. The 3 of us stand on the suffocating purple-black soil of the moon's dark side. Ahead of us, a massive crystal peak tens of thousands of meters tall pierces straight into space. Scarlet points at it. That's the main hive of the crystal parasites. Destroy the crystal heart inside, and we cut their control over Earth completely. I take a deep breath, settling the wild new energy I just absorbed. Let's go meet these so-called high-dimensional gods who treat humans like vessels. We descend through cracks in the crystal mountain, deep into the underground core of the hive. The walls around us are packed with creatures sealed inside the crystal. Not just mutant beasts from Earth, but countless unknown alien species too. All of them are nothing more than incubators for the hive's high-dimensional larvae. Dad's eyes blaze with fury. He looks ready to flatten this place with one swipe of his claw. Suddenly the passage opens up, revealing a huge underground plaza. At its center floats a beating heart the size of a small planet. made entirely of purple crystal. Every pulse shakes the space around it. Beneath the heart stand 12 mysterious figures in purple robes, the 12 high priests of the crystal parasites in this region. The lead high priest slowly turns his head. Beneath the hood swirls a shifting nebula. He speaks in an overlapping synthetic voice that seems to come from every direction at once. Foolish lower-dimensional beings, daring to walk in and offer yourselves as sacrifices. I sneer back, sharp and merciless. You parasites who only dare hide in the dark. Today I'm using your crystal heart as a stepping stone for my origin sequence. I strike first. My dark gold dragon wings beat hard, and I shoot forward like a meteor, aiming straight at the lead high priest. The 12 priests raise their crystal staves at the same instant, throwing up a unified barrier. My fist hits the barrier and only sends out a faint ripple. This barrier is far tougher than I expected. It absorbs physical force completely. The high priest laughs with contempt. Before absolute law, force is a joke. The tips of their staves flare with blinding purple light, locking onto all three of us. 12 devastating high-dimensional disintegration rays weave together into a net of death and drop straight down on us. These rays can break matter apart at the atomic level, down to the basic particles. Dad's face changes. He moves to shield me, but I yank him behind me. My eyes turn pure gold. The origin core inside me runs at full power. If physical attacks don't work, I'll use high-dimensional space law on you instead. I clap my hands together and rip open a space rift right in front of me. All 12 disintegration rays vanish into the chaotic alternate dimension. The high priest's laughter cuts off. The nebula under the hood ripples in disbelief. How can you possibly control space folding, a law of the highest dimension? I don't give them time to talk. I shift through space and appear behind them, claws coated in flames of annihilation tearing straight through two priests' energy bodies. They don't even get a scream out before melting into puddles of purple energy ooze. The unified barrier collapses instantly. Dad seizes the moment, transforms into the white tiger and pounces. His metal tiger claws tear through the remaining priests like a meat grinder. Scarlet draws her pulse saber too, providing precision cover fire and cleanup from behind. In just 2 minutes, all 12 high priests are wiped out. I shake the leftover energy off my claws and walk toward the massive crystal heart. Destroy this, and the parasitic war stretching across countless light years ends today. I raise my right fist, every drop of origin power gathered into it, ready to deliver the killing blow. Just as I think this crystal heart is about to be smashed to pieces, a sharp, desperate scream of a human woman echoes from inside it. The purple crystal surface turns transparent, revealing the figure sealed within. Linda, the woman who was swallowed by the mutant beast tied at the wasteland fortress half a month ago. Her body is studded with purple infusion tubes. She looks at me with empty eyes. Ryan, save me. I know I was wrong. Please don't kill me. I don't want to die. Her weak voice comes straight into my mind through a high-dimensional mental link. Scarlet gasps. The Hive is using your former partner as the heart's final shield. If you smash this heart, that woman's soul will be ripped apart in an instant. Dad frowns. These bastards are dirty, playing mind games like this. I look at the woman inside the crystal heart, the one I once gave everything for. I look at the face that used to be so proud, now twisted by terror, and inside me nothing stirs. Not a ripple. I almost find it funny. I turn to Scarlet and Dad, my voice is calm as if talking about the weather. Do you really think the life or death of a traitor matters to someone about to become a god? I raise my fist without hesitation, no slowing down, and slam straight into the crystal heart. Linda's desperate scream rings out under the wind of my punch, sharp and so utterly meaningless. I see the venom and the unwillingness in her eyes, and a cold, mocking smile pulls at my lips. I told you. In my life, you don't even count as a speck of dust. With a thunderous roar that shakes the moon's core, my origin fist, wrapped in white-hot flames of total annihilation, drives clean through the crystal heart. Linda's body and soul vanish into the violent energy in an instant, leaving no trace behind, just like her wretched life wiped out completely. The massive purple crystal heart begins an irreversible chain collapse. The wild high-dimensional energy breaks loose and turns into a storm sweeping the entire underground space. Scarlet shouts urgently, "The Hive is going to blow! This energy could split the moon in half. We have to evacuate now, or we all die with it." I turn to face the raging energy storm. A wild resolve flashes in my eyes. You two go first. I'm going to devour the Hive's source energy completely and break through to the perfect divine realm. Dad refuses flat out. Too dangerous. This power will tear you apart. I force open a stable transport corridor with space law, leading straight back to the ship, without giving them a choice. I shove Dad and Scarlet through and seal it shut behind them. Don't worry, Dad. I said I would break every law of this universe. The moment the corridor closes, I turn and face the energy tide strong enough to destroy stars. I release Titan body and float at the center of the storm in my purest human form. The origin core in my chest erupts with dark gold light brighter than anything I've ever shown before. Come, let me see how high this so-called ultimate high-dimensional power can push me. Violent purple energy floods into every cell of my body like a tsunami breaking through a dam. The pain is thousands of times worse than any awakening before this. My bones shatter and reform over and over. My muscles tear and heal again and again. My consciousness starts to blur under the agony, like falling into an endless abyss, but I hold on to that last spark. The origin sequence will never bow to pain this cheap. I don't know how much time passes, maybe a moment, maybe centuries, but I absorb that world-ending energy storm down to the last drop. The purple-black crystal shell on the dark side of the moon loses its power source and starts peeling away in massive sheets. I slowly open my eyes in the endless void. My pupils have become deep cosmic starfields. My body wears no flashy scales or roaring flames anymore. Only pure, perfect lines, flowing with a soft, dark gold divine light. This is the origin sequence 100% awakened. The ultimate realm, the cosmic divine body. I raise a hand and wave it casually. The shattered space around me heals on its own. I glance down at the broken moon beneath me, riddled with holes, but finally free of its parasites. Then I lift my eyes to the vast star field stretching into the deep universe far beyond. I know this isn't the end. This is just the real beginning of my journey to conquer the stars with my fists. I pull the galaxy-tearing energy back inside me, flicker once, cross hundreds of thousands of kilometers of vacuum, and appear inside the Resistance's battered ship. Scarlet and Dad are watching the holographic scanners anxiously. When I appear out of nowhere, their eyes go wide. There isn't a trace of energy leaking from me. I look like an ordinary, harmless human. But Dad, as the apex metal tiger, knows on instinct that I'm 10,000 times more terrifying now than my dark gold titan form ever was. You actually survived and broke past the limit of life itself. Scarlet walks up, her excitement clear, studying my new state carefully. I nod slightly, about to tell them I broke through to perfect divine realm, when the highest level doomsday alarm screams across the bridge again. The holographic star map shows Earth's defense coordinates flashing blood red. What now? Are there hidden crystal parasite nodes still on Earth? Scarlet's slender fingers blur across the console. The image she pulls up makes every Resistance soldier present suck in a sharp breath. The massive high-dimensional collapse from the Hive's destruction has torn open an interstellar wormhole in Earth's geosynchronous orbit. A metal fortress 1/3 bigger than the moon itself is slowly squeezing out of that purple glowing wormhole. That's the Star Destroyer Judgment Fortress of the high-dimensional civilization. Scarlet's voice trembles. They picked up the Hive's final emergency signal. They're going to wipe Earth's entire solar system off the star map. I look at the sky-blocking metal fortress on the screen. There's no fear in my eyes. Only fiercer battle hunger burning hotter than before. Just hit the perfect divine realm. This piece of junk makes a nice warm-up. I tell Scarlet to pull the ship back to a safe zone near Jupiter's orbit immediately. Dad roars, shifting into half-beast form, insisting on coming with me. I pat his broad shoulder and grin. Don't bother this time, Dad. Let your son show you what a real dimensional strike looks like. Before the words fade, I melt into the void and vanish from the ship's cabin. When I reappear above Earth's orbit, the fortress has fully arrived. Its massive shadow blocks nearly all of Earth's sunlight. Tens of thousands of red destruction beam ports light up across its underside. Just when I think they're about to start indiscriminate bombing of Earth, a mental wave from inside the fortress echoes across the entire solar system. Hand over the perfect origin vessel, or this blue planet is gone. I sneer. I walk forward through space as if strolling through a garden. With every step, a ring of golden ripples spreads through space beneath my feet. I'm right here. If you've got the guts, come out and take me yourself. My voice isn't loud, but it reaches every corner of the fortress clearly. The fortress's main cannon locks onto me instantly. A dark matter annihilation beam over 100 kilometers wide explodes outward. Wherever it passes, even space itself is broken down into nothingness. Facing a beam that could easily destroy an Earth-like planet, I don't dodge, I don't raise a shield. I simply lift my right hand, extend my finger, and tap the beam lightly. A miracle plays out in the cold silence of space. The instant the world-ending beam touches my fingertip, it's as if it slammed into an unbreakable wall of size. All that energy compresses, in an instant, into a single black glass marble, which I roll between two fingers like a toy. The high-ranking commanders inside the fortress are clearly stunned beyond words. They can't comprehend how a carbon-based life form could catch a Starbreaker cannon shot bare-handed. I don't give them time to think. I flick the black marble back at them. It turns into a black bolt faster than light and slams into the fortress with a thunderous roar. An explosion beyond words lights up the void. The fortress's outermost absolute force field shield, said to withstand a supernova, shatters like a fragile eggshell under that one strike. I spread my arms. The origin core inside me runs in reverse. Time for you parasites looking down on us to taste being devoured yourselves. A massive dark gold black hole forms slowly behind me. Its devour force locks straight onto the fortress. The metal armor on its outer hull starts being sucked into the black hole uncontrollably. Countless high-dimensional life forms pilot escape pods in panic, trying to break out of the gravity well. But against absolute power at the level of a cosmic god, nothing works. Just when I think this fortress has given up, an extremely familiar aura erupts from the deepest core of it, a source pulse from the same root as the origin sequence inside me. A figure wrapped in blinding white light bursts through the fortress's outer shell, gripping a spear made of pure origin energy. He shoots toward my forehead at a speed even I find dangerous. My eyes narrow. I twist aside to dodge the lethal strike and grab his spear with the reverse hand. The white light fades, revealing a face that shocks me to the core. He looks exactly like my father, Zayden. But I know for certain he isn't Dad because Dad is still in Jupiter's orbit. Who are you? Why do you have my dad's face and origin aura? The man looks back at me without warmth. There isn't a trace of human emotion in his eyes. I am Subject Zero, the prime origin prototype, and your genetic template. You, the defective rebel, will be recovered by the master brain today. By endless rage. So the crystal parasites didn't just steal Earth's psionic energy. They already had their hands on Dad's genetic sequence. I don't care what kind of prime prototype you are, wearing that face to come at me. Today I'm beating you and the master brain behind you into cosmic dust. I release the spear and drive my right fist like a dark gold meteor straight into his chest. But he throws a fist back at the same time. Two streams of origin power collide violently in space. This is what a real clash of gods looks like. The space around us shreds apart. He doesn't have my flawless, cosmic, divine body, but his origin energy keeps pouring out endlessly, as if connected to the entire universe. I quickly realize he isn't fighting with his own strength. He's drawing power from the fortress's star core reactor. If you want a war of attrition, I'll grant your wish, soulless puppet. I stop holding back. The dark gold black hole behind me expands tenfold instantly. I'm no longer just devouring the fortress's armor. I'm swallowing the energy it releases too. A flicker of pain from a core overload finally crosses his face. The instant he freezes, I close in, grab his shoulders with both hands, and slam him straight into the fortress. The impact smashes a massive hole through the thick outer hull. I follow right behind, turning into a streak of dark gold light and tearing into the fortress's inner corridors. I'm going to break this famous Star Destroyer weapon apart from inside. The space inside the fortress is a vast mechanical maze. Endless blue glowing high-dimensional combat drones swarm at me like a tide. But against absolute divine power, numbers mean nothing. Every punch I throw vaporizes a wave of drones into nothing. I follow the familiar source aura all the way to the deepest part of the fortress until I reach a vast and grand metal hall. The prime prototype with Dad's face stands at the center. Behind him floats a strange polyhedron glowing with nine-colored light, pulsing as if alive, radiating the power of cosmic law. The prototype wipes the gold blood from the corner of his mouth and points at the polyhedron. This is the supreme core of our high-dimensional civilization, the omniscient cosmic cube. As long as the cube remains, I can be reborn infinitely with my power doubling each time. The moment he finishes speaking, his damaged body returns to perfect condition and the origin aura around him surges, doubling outright. I narrow my eyes at the so-called omniscient cosmic cube. There's no such thing as an omniscient, invincible being in this universe. If there is, it can only be these fists of mine that smash every rule. I push off hard. The metal floor of the hall caves in under me. Like a raging supernova, I crash straight into the prime prototype. He roars and swings his origin spear to block me, but against my fully awakened ultimate origin power, it's not even close. One punch snaps his origin spear in half. One kick caves in his chest. Just as I think he's about to use the cube to revive again, a deadly chill hits me from behind. Out of empty space, hundreds of chains shoot out of nowhere. Chains made entirely of nine-colored light, carrying an unshakable sealing law. They wrap around my limbs and torso in an instant, holding me suspended in midair. I struggle hard only to find the origin power inside me completely locked down. The prototype, whose chest I should have just shattered, now smiles strangely. His chest wound heals instantly. He walks up to me, looking at me with eyes full of pity. You thought I was fighting you? I was just buying time to activate the cube. True omniscience can rewrite your genetic base code at will. He presses a hand against my forehead. A horrifying stream of data floods into my brain. He's trying to wipe out every human memory and feeling I've built over the past 10 years, trying to reformat me into a cold-killing weapon just like them. The struggle on the wasteland, Dad's smile, Scarlet's hope, they all flash wildly through my mind. No, I will not let you parasites win. I roar in the deepest part of my soul, trying to force my way through the seal. But under the cosmic cube's supreme cosmic law, my resistance feels pathetically weak. After just touching the realm of gods, am I really going to fall here? At the very last second, the origin core in my chest, silent until now, suddenly bursts out with chaotic gray light completely free from cosmic law. It devours the invading data stream in an instant. Then the gray power flows up the nine-colored chains in reverse, racing straight toward the cube. The supposedly omniscient cosmic cube trembles in fear. The prime prototype lets go in horror, backing away as if he's seen a demon. Impossible! How can you have a primordial chaos source beyond high-dimensional law inside you? I sneer. The nine-colored chains break apart inch by inch under the gray light. I told you, I'm not just breaking Earth's limits. I'm crushing the rules of this entire star sea. I'm free again. Gray primordial chaos gathers in my right fist. No flashy movements, just one brutal, simple punch that ignores all distance and lands straight on the cosmic cube. With a dull sound that seems to silence the entire universe, the nine-colored polyhedron actually cracks under my punch. The prototype lets out a scream of utter despair. His body begins collapsing along with the cube. Endless high-dimensional energy pours out through the cracks and is greedily devoured by my origin core. The Star Destroyer fortress, with its core power source gone, begins falling apart everywhere. I don't waste a glance on the fake dad turning to ash. I turn and head out. This colossus is about to detonate, with enough force to wipe out several nearby planets. I have to get back to Jupiter's orbit before the blast and protect Dad and Scarlet's ship. I become a streak of gray light, racing through the collapsing metal maze at full speed. 1 second before the fortress detonates completely, I burst through the thick outer armor. Behind me, light brighter than 10,000 suns explodes through space. The shockwave and gamma ray burst from the blast sweep across the entire void. Without hesitation I turn, putting my divine body between Earth and the blast. I spread my arms. A gray, primordial chaos shield expands instantly to hundreds of thousands of kilometers across, catching every last bit of the lethal energy that could wipe out Earth's biosphere outside geosynchronous orbit. I stand like an unshakable wall of size, guarding the mother planet that raised me. By the time the aftershock fades completely, Earth's orbit has a new field of metal debris. I let out a long breath, feeling the power inside me grow purer through this crisis. I activate space jump one more time, returning to the resistance ship hidden near Jupiter's orbit. Seeing me come back safely, Dad rushes up and pulls me into a bear hug. Scarlet looks at the holographic screen showing the destroyed fortress, her eyes full of shock and awe. You didn't just destroy the high-dimensional civilization's judgment fortress. You protected Earth too. You are a miracle. I shake my head. The depth of the high-dimensional civilization is far beyond this. We need to be ready. Sure enough, the moment I finish speaking, the ship's communication channel is forcefully overridden.